So, at a quick glance, what does this game look like to you? I mean, seriously, Nintendo, why haven't you taken a look at this game and thought, isn't that Super Mario Land? Even the PRG file says Mario on it. Maybe they thought that at the time the ST was dying down as a gaming platform and was no longer a genuine rival. But this is far and away more obvious than what the great Gianna systems were, and they sued that one. Super Starioland was made by Byte Software in 1995 exclusively for the Atari ST. Despite there being rumours of a Jaguar version of the game, I'd imagine that died when the Jaguar met its death in 1996. I'm not sure what the plot is supposed to be. I don't believe it received the box release and thus I don't have a manual on it. But since it's an obvious rip-off of the Mario series, one can only presume that we are saving the princess from an evil fire-breathing reptile. It's worth noting that there are two different versions of the game, a standard build and a 1MB version, but I couldn't tell you what the difference between the two is. I think that everybody and their dog is familiar with a Super Mario game by this point. You run from left to right trying to get to the end of the level. Unlike those Mario titles, you cannot go down the pipes on any of the levels, there's no hidden or secret areas that I know of, and there's also a distinct lack of end bosses. I don't consider the enemy rush an appropriate replacement for a real boss battle. Stario's main form of attack, of course, is stomping on enemies, but he can also pick up potions to make himself grow larger in order to survive an additional enemy hit, and if you pick up another potion, it gives him an ability to fling fireballs. There's also one that enables you to do a double jump. I did notice that these power-ups seem to be rather infrequent in the later levels, but that's just a minor quibble on the level design. There's a more obvious problem that I'll go into later. Visually the sprites are fairly small and simple, but everything is animated really well with some good designs of the enemies even if they do repeat a little bit too often for my liking. It generally plays very smoothly. My major complaint is the music, where you are once again given the option of either music or sound effects, and to be honest the music isn't really that great. I mean, just turn it off and play one of your music CDs instead. Control-wise, it plays well with the joystick, with it feeling very similarly to Nintendo's franchise, as you'd probably expect by now. In terms of difficulty, it is quite a bit harder than the average Mario game, simply because it seems to drop the power-ups a lot less, which leaves you more vulnerable, particularly during the levels with those bloody flying fish. If you can't get through first time, then you are screwed, as it ends up being a die with one hit experience. There are some levels where there is only one power up, or sometimes there are none, which means that you have to be point perfect. It really gets difficult in the later levels because of this, and really frustrating. The other major problem with the game is the level design itself. There really isn't any level design. The stages seem to generate randomly using set configuration of blocks. What this means is, you can often be playing a level and see the same platform and enemy pattern 3 times over, giving the impression that you're simply going round and round in circles and not progressing. Maybe this was done to conserve disk space, but it gives the impression that the levels haven't been properly designed, but a mishmash of enemy assets. It certainly makes the levels feel less memorable and repetitive than a platformer where someone has actually taken the time to properly design the pitfalls and traps. This is also a pretty linear game. There's no warp pipes to go down as far as I know, all the pipes are just there for show, and I don't think there are any secret areas. Despite being an obvious rip-off and not as good as the NES Classic, although saying that, looking at the level structure, I suspect it was based off Super Mario Land on the Game Boy. Whilst it does look nicer than that Game Boy game, the level design and the music makes it feel worse than what it should be. However, Super Starioland does still have some decent gameplay, and is a platformer well worth picking up, although there are much better examples on the ST such as Magic Pockets or Rolling Ronnie. Now, if you're expecting me to have a full walkthrough for this game, unfortunately I've yet to complete it. This one seems to go on and on and on. So far I've managed to get to World 7, I think 7 was my best playthrough so far, and I don't see myself finishing this anytime soon, but nevertheless, I'm going to give it a go right now. I'm going to play it for as long as I can, and let's get on with this. If I ever do finish it, then I of course will put up a video, but I don't see it coming anytime soon.